Everyone, it's Ellis, and this is the patch 12.12b and patch 12.13 notes plus preview. This is one of the weirdest things. I don't think I've ever uploaded something like this to the main channel, but obviously I've uploaded it on the highlights channel. And I just came straight out of the shower and saw that they ended up posting this stuff on Twitter. I had been wondering where it actually was because the current patch that we're in right now is a 3-week patch. So let's just get into the meat of it. So the yellow text is 12.12b and 12.13 is all the white text. So 12.13 preview is the white text. Now, obviously, there is still quite a bit of time before 12.13 drops, so maybe some of this stuff is going to get changed, but we'll just talk about what it could end up meaning. If you come from the highlights channel, then you know that that is normally where the previews are done, but because it's a combination of the two, I'm just uploading it on the main channel. R damage added 10% bonus AD ratio. That's really big for Renekton because that means his R is going to be absolutely insane now. It's really funny if people don't end up picking Renekton or whatever is going on with Renekton, because if anyone's gone to Renekton's patch history from when he was the premier meta mainstay and when I was trying my best to basically crucify the champion, and where he's at right now and all the changes that have ended up happening, both direct and indirect to him, it's very funny that he's just totally a ghost pretty much everywhere. So I think in that regard, it's actually really funny. I do imagine that once, people getting paid and, getting these paychecks, get around to looking at the patch history and then looking around and, sitting around in a circle and thinking about, maybe what is going on, they'll end up realizing that Renekton probably is going to come back in most teams' atmospheres and everything like that. And that'll be where it ends up going, because I think that Renekton probably will be back by 12.13. Elise, base health, 625 to 650. Health growth is up by 2, so she's just getting a little bit tankier. Armor, 27 to 30. Human Q base damage, 40 to 160 to 40 to 180. So obviously, flat damage things are actually always really scary, and her getting more durable is also something that you do have to keep on the radar. She's apparently a massive pub stomp champion inside of solo queue. I honestly don't know. I never see her, and even when I'm watching other people's streams, I also never see her. But apparently Elise's win rate and everything is like through the roof, so it's really bizarre. Passive heal per second, total healing unchanged, 15 to 75 based on levels to 15 to 150. Wow, okay. That's weird. W magic resistance shred 25 to 35% to 35 to 45%. R now sets passive on a 1.25 second. Cool. Oh, this isn't Elise. All right. Sorry about that. The way that this is actually formatted, it's Evelyn. Okay. Evelyn's passive heal per second, total healing unchanged, 15 to 75 based on health to 15 to, okay, W magic resist shred, so she's getting 10% more of your MR is actually being taken away from you. So this almost, I would imagine, roughly undoes some of the problems that Evelyn was facing, where with the durability update, the fact that Evelyn built Rocket Belt, etc., everyone getting more magic resist, everyone getting more HP, etc., it was just worse for Evelyn. Like it's actually inarguable that literally everything that happened would end up just being worse for her. But in the end, it does seem like now, this is now sets passive on a 1.25 second cooldown as well for the R. I mean, that's obviously pretty interesting, and the shred just, I think, helps her massively. So I think there's no denying what kind of value this is doing. Fiddlesticks, Q fear duration, so 1 to 2 seconds, 1.25 to 2.25 seconds, okay. Our total damage is going up massively, even at rank 1, 125 base damage. Now, that's obviously if they sit inside of the R for the entire duration, which, let's be honest, usually they actually are in most cases. So that is a massive rank 1 buff to the damage. It's also getting 25% AP ratio on it. Now, early on when you're casting the R, you don't really have a lot of AP, but this is that's a lot of damage being added in for just randomly. And then obviously in the later stages of the game, the extra damage isn't going to matter that much. Getting 125 damage when you're already dealing near 2,000 is not going to be super big, but the extra 25% AP ratio on his R is actually going to be somewhat valuable when you combine it with the base that it's getting. So really good Fiddlesticks buffs. Unfortunately, people don't want to go into practice tool and learn where to stand. It's also really difficult to try to get teammates to want to play with Fiddlesticks because he has unique setup. He has unique engage patterns. He requires teammates to sort of stand in position in certain ways in order for him to maximize his value. And the other 4 players don't really like stuff like this, because we're allergic to winning. So, Kled, Q bonus AD ratio, 60%, 120% Q2 to 65%, 130 Q2. W cooldown 12 to 6 seconds to 11 to 5 seconds. This is obviously really nice for Kled. I mean, just getting some of the cooldown and stuff ended up being shaved. If there is one thing that I've always heard, apparently Kled mains always talk about, is the way that he has an uncontrollable factor to his kit. And that's what makes balancing him somewhat weird, as well as just sort of controlling him a little bit weird. So he is getting a lot more damage. I think that when Kled was in his heyday, he was mostly doing the tank variation because of the way that his HP and everything worked with Skarl. And then when Riot ended up changing that is when he began having problems. I'm not really so sure that just giving him a minor amount of extra damage in the W cooldown is going to be exactly what the champion needs in order to just start appearing, more everywhere, but we'll see. Karthus, armor is going up by 3. Health growth is also going up by 9. Not super big, so he gets a little bit more durable, and I guess he'll be higher HP inside of the jungle on his initial clear, which generally is the only time where he's really vulnerable. This does help out some of his matchup against physical damage champions for sure. It obviously makes Karthus a little bit more difficult to kill and whatnot. For some people, going into passive is going to be a little bit harder now, and they're just not going to be that happy about it. Those are the E-Karthus enthusiasts, and that's pretty much it. Talia, Q damage 40 to 120 to 45 to 125. Q mana cost 60 to 80 to 55 to 75. Q bonus monster damage 30 to 25. Okay. And now new Q2 now stuns monsters. No longer goes on CD when Talia damages wards or traps. I don't know what that means. And so it sounds like that's just a bug fix or something like that. So all in all, I guess it's a very minor buff all around, but it doesn't, I don't know, this one seems really filler to me. It doesn't really seem like it's going to move Talia's position. Obviously, I do think that she's probably better catered right now being a jungle or being a support champion in wonky situations than anything else that she has going for her. Galio, Q max HP damage per tick 2% plus 0.66 percent per 100 AP to 2.5% plus 1% per 100 AP. That is a lot of extra damage for Galio, and his combo is definitely going to hurt a lot more. So this is a little bit odd, especially when you consider that Predator had its cooldown lowered a little bit, but it ended up having its damage increased. And so now if Galio does still end up going Predator for whatever reason, then his whole combo just hits a lot harder. So that's obviously something that feels bad. Vex, Q cooldown 9 to 5 to 8 to 4. That's massive. QAP ratio is also going up by 10%. Vex's main problem is that Vex was itemizing in a way that never really made too much sense. And in Spring Split, people draft like clowns. And so you had Vex Ahri almost every game. And so because you had Vex Ahri every single game, what people never realized is that Vex really hates when opponents either are tanky, have shields, or build magic resist. So Vex really hates shield bow champions, right? Vex really hates enchanters. Vex really hates anyone else who kind of builds Everfrost and Merc Treads. Vex really hates the bruiserish AP types of champions. Vex really hates anti-mages, right? Like Kassadin and things of that nature. So, or just champions that don't have dashes that also are able to itemize into tanky AP items if they want, right? Which is why it ended up causing Ryze to eventually flourish and come into prominence and a bunch of other things. So Vex getting 10% AP, I almost want to say it doesn't matter because, again, durability update, 10% more ability power for a champion that already doesn't really get a lot of ability power because Vex doesn't really get to go up to death cap in most cases. I mean, when you're talking about 3-item, 4-item Vex, you're also talking about the opponent's ability to be itemized for Vex. So the reduced cooldown does help her weave in more damage inside of a fight. Maybe she gets one extra Q off now inside of an extended team fight, which I do think it is possible. So with the extra AP ratio, then, you end up getting 150% AP extra inside of a team fight in terms of damage or something like that. So it gets a little bit better for her, but I still don't think it fixes her problems. Mastery, auto attack range 125 to 175. New. When Alpha Strike ends, choose the direction you want to appear at relative to target. What? When Alpha Strike ends, choose the. Wow, that's That's really big. You can choose where you land now or where you're going to come out of the Alpha Strike. Okay. W cooldown is 28 to 9 seconds. W mana cost 50 to 40 plus 6% maximum mana per second. What? 40 plus 6% max mana per second. What? That doesn't sound right. New damage reduction during the first 0.5 seconds of meta trait is 90%. W damage reduction always lingers for 0.5 seconds after W ends. Passive max bonus attacks. Wow. Passive max. Okay, so that's mastery. These changes are obviously aimed at making Mastery a lot more skill expressive. These are only for elite tier or very high MMR because you're talking about being able to utilize 0.5 second window and stuff. The other problem with this is actually very funny and people aren't going to realize it, is that Mastery is literally a different champion in Champions Queue and for people literally playing in Chicago or people playing in the Netherlands or people playing on Korea or China server, because the ping is going to be really important for utilizing this type of a mechanic. And if you just have higher ping, you're not going to be able to utilize it the same way as other people. And so almost everything that is publicly available statistically about Mastery on like win rates and things like that, it almost doesn't matter because literally 99.99999% of the player base can't even utilize the mechanic that they're trying to force him to have. And I just think that's hilarious when something like that's going to happen. But hey, whatever. Olaf Jungle, passive max bonus attack speed, 40 to 100% based on level to 60 to 100% based on level. That's obviously really big for Olaf Jungle. Wow, okay. Health regen 8.5, 9.9% growth to 6.5.6 growth. Okay, Q mana cost 40 to 60 to 50 to 70. So mana cost actually going up early does affect top lane Olaf, but passive max bonus attack speed going up as well is totally fine. I think this is all fine. Okay, now we are on to patch 12.12b. Okay, so now we're in the yellow text. So now we're in the thing that's coming out this week, this Thursday. Let's talk about it. Shaco. Passive AD ratio, 15% to 25%. QAD ratio, 40% to 50%. W cooldown, 16 seconds to 15 seconds. W duration, AP ratio, 5% to 10%. Okay, so I feel like they can't make up their mind on what Shaco is doing. In all seriousness, I really do feel like they don't know what's going on. If anyone's been seeing like the Twitter clips that Vigar V2 has posted, Chase Shaco, bunch of other people that have been commenting on Vigar or Shaco and whatnot, it just feels really odd because I don't feel like these numbers are enough to warrant Shaco being picked again. Also, the fact that they can't seemingly make up their mind on what they want to do with like the W passive or the AP ratio is obviously really big for AP Shaco, support Shaco, you know, variations of that. But then the passive AD ratio buff going up by 10% AD. I mean, I don't even know how much AD actually Shaco even gets. I almost feel like this is going to be a negligible amount. And I feel like with how overtuned Blade of the Ruin King is for most champions that are melee, Blade of the Ruin King is still just going to be the bread and butter. And so if Blade of the Ruin King is still just going to be the bread and butter, can you actually justify going into a second sort of AD item, or do you just go tankier? Do you go hybrid at that point? Honestly, I don't even know. Okay, we'll move on to Katarina. So as I always say about Katarina, the changes are really heavy. They're all over the place. I do not understand them enough. And so probably the best person that makes content talks about Katarina, got to like 800 or 900 LP on the Korean Challenger ladder. You just go to Cat Evolved, his Twitter. I think he interacts with riders on there. He like complains about Katarina on there. I think he even makes like posts about Katarina on there, or maybe he makes videos. I'm not totally sure, but I do believe that he's just the person to go to. I do not understand what is going on with Katarina enough to comment on the nuance between all these rapid changes that Riot are trying to do with her. And I don't even know, truthfully, what their end goal is. Caitlyn, passive damage, 50 to 100% total AD to 60 to 110% total AD. W bonus headshot damage, 60 to 240 plus 40 to 12. 100% bonus AD, amazing. 40 to 100, 40 to 220 to 40 to 80% bonus AD. These changes are obviously really good for Caitlyn. Caitlyn is suffering right now, I would say, in the bot lane just because, one, Caitlyn loses to a lot of the enchanters, loses to a lot of the mages. This was actually been the truth for a really long time, even back in spring, when Caitlyn was sort of like everywhere inside of the meta and whatnot. No one wanted to take enchanters against Caitlyn, and no one wanted to play mages against Caitlyn, even though she has a really hard time against them. These type of changes don't change the fact that Caitlyn still struggles in that regard, and so it doesn't really do all that much. Caitlyn's gotten a lot of other small tweaks over the last couple of patches as well. Do I think it's magically going to make her come back? No, but what people do have to keep in mind is they have to pay attention to patches as more and more ADs continue to get hit, because eventually as more ADs do continue to get hit and more ADs continue to get brought in line, or depending on what the support meta is, or what other type of stuff is going on with the jungle, yada yada yada, Caitlyn can end up becoming viable. I do think that Caitlyn can be picked. It's not like she can't be picked at all, but I do think that it is a designer game plan when you end up picking Caitlyn. Leona, passive damage, 25 plus 7 per level to 32 plus 8 per level. This is actually kind of big. This is pretty big. Leona's a champion that I was saying that if you wanted to take her jungle, or you wanted to take her mid, you wanted to take her top lane, it would have been a really long time ago before Riot started coming for her base damages. But now with like Demonic Embrace and with Sunfire buffs, or the Bomby Cinder buffs, etc. Now the passive buffs and stuff like that, I do not think that Leona belongs in. If Leona goes support, then I think it's a mistake in most cases. I think that Leona's utility as a champion is still really high, but to justify taking her support when other supports exist that can basically do the same thing that she can do but better doesn't really make all that much sense. But Leona, I do think that when she has a lot of stuff going for her, note, not just a random support item, some boots, maybe some recipe components, and then very low base levels, then I think that it might actually be merit to Leona. But the problem with that is that you can only achieve those things inside of jungle, mid, and top lane. There are, I believe, there is one, I think, guy that plays Leona in like Grandmaster Korea or something, and I think he plays her in top lane, and this will obviously be a very nice buff. So that seems like it's it for all the buffs for 12.12b and 12.13. I know this is kind of an awkward video in that regard, but now we'll move on to the nerfs, and I'm very sad about this because I believe that there's a lot of champions on the nerf bat, but we are going to move on now. All right, so League of Legends patch 12.12b and 12.13 Champion Nerf. So again, the yellow text is 12.12b, which comes out this week. Corki, so is up on the chopping block for 12.13, and this is mostly probably because every 2 patches will follow a competitive cycle. Corki's been in a lot of places. EAD ratio 10 to 15%. EAD ratio 10 to 15% R damage, 90 to 160 plus 15 to 75% AD, 20% AP. To 80 to 150 plus 15 to 75% AD plus 12% AP, and then he loses only 8% ability power. Honestly, that I don't think that's gonna do anything. I'm being totally honest with you. I just do not think that's not losing 8% ability power on his R. Well, I mean, he is also losing a flat 10, so he's losing a flat 10, and then he's also losing 8% ability power, but even like early on, I mean, it's just not going to do anything. I mean, he has a very negligible amount. I mean, when you combine everything, that it'll end up meaning like, 30 a rocket or something like that, which can, in the later stages for sure, but that can end up doing something. But for the most part, out the gate, I just don't think that's actually going to matter that much. I mean, Corki's still going to get picked because he has other reasons for being picked, and I mean, you could just play Corki. There's no way. Volibear, Q movement speed 10 to 26% to 8 to 24%. Q base damage 20 to 100 to 10 to 90. Okay, so they really just hate the boss or what? Like I feel like I do not think of Volibear as a good champion by any means. I understand that he's being nerfed because of his jungle, but this is gonna be crippling top lane, no? So the Q movement speed going down even lower as well. It's just so funny. W bonus AP ratio 6% to 5%. W base damage 10 to 110 to 5 to 105. Like this is such a joke. E% max HP damage 11 to 15 to 9 to 13. This is insanity. This is absolutely insanity. Enon champion damage cap 750 to 650. This is so disgusting how big of a nerf Volibear is getting. The hilarious, and then hold on. Apparently, is this Bel'Veth? I actually. Oh, okay. No. All right. The next one's Bel'Veth. Okay. All right. We're all fine. This is disgusting what they're doing to Volibear. It is so sad and so pathetic that a champion whose main thing is just running at another enemy laner and pressing Q on them is somehow enough to just confuzzle laners and make things it's really sad. It's really sad when you watch Volibear pro games and you see what the champion's actually doing. You follow the champion, and then you ask yourself, like, are we really losing to this? Or are these decisions that, are leading up to these moments, etc., really justifying this champion even being picked in the first place? And I think almost the answer is always no in most cases, right? I think if you're doing an honest analysis, now I understand most people don't do that, right? What they do is they take the end result of something and then confirm that it was correct. But what ends up happening is you get a champion like Volibear who he has a lot of bad matchups, and he does not fit into a lot of team compositions, but he seems very oppressive in victory, right? He's a very big win more champion. Do you think Volibear is ever really going to be the reason that you win? No, he's not. Is he ever going to turn an even game winning with something that he offers compared to another champion like mid or late game? No, probably not, right? Because if you're making the argument that he can get on top of someone with his stun, or he can do R or something, like he can do RQ, or you can go over stuff. The opponent probably could have just played better. He's such a cookie cutter vanilla champion in so many ways that it's laughable that he's actually being hit this hard after the durability update. It's just really sad to see. Okay, we're gonna move into 12.12b nerfs now. This is like gonna affect everyone later this week. So Bel'Veth, very interesting. I think that she's sporting a 51 at the time of this video. I think that she's sporting a 51% win rate pretty much everywhere. For those that have been like watching anything that I've been talking about her lately, I believe that after the most recent change, her best role is mid lane, or it's actually top lane, because she can play a really, really sick War of Attrition game versus most matchups. She has really easy gank setup. She has very easy survivability. It's very hard for a laner to kill her in lane because of her E, and she ends up really making it very difficult for a lot of champions. And she has really good wave clear as well, and she even has really good counter jungling and everything else. So I do think that like mid or top lane will probably end up being her lane, but much like Volibear, I have no doubt about how little I think of the ability that she might end up actually coming out inside of pro play, as long as lots of people have, winning lanes and winning matchups and all the other stuff. Now, her clear is still difficult. Her clear is still hard. Even after a lot of games put into it, I still have not talked to anyone who can seemingly do it solo. I do know people, well, myself included, am able to do the sub 315 as long as a leash is present or something like that. I think it's totally doable. The leashless 314 and the leashless 306, I have no idea. And I don't even know if it's been updated since the last buff. Maybe it's actually better since the last buff. But anyways, going into it, 80 growth 2 to 1.7. I think that's totally fine. She does have AD modifiers. It does feel a little bit bad. I don't think this affects any of her CSing early on, or I don't think that it affects even her jungle clear. I could be wrong. This could be an exact number in order to affect a jungle clear with Qs, making it so that you have to do it a lot better. Health growth is going to be lowered by 6. I think that's fine. E cooldown 22 to 14 to 22 to 16. This is another very fine change. There are a lot of instances where E is like 1 second off anyway. It feels like the cooldown is so heavy anyway that it's almost rarely coming up. I think this is going to ensure that it just doesn't come up again. You have to get really good at using the E, and that's pretty much it. E lifesteal 20 to 26% to 20% at all ranks. So this does hurt the E first max builds. You do end up losing a little bit of lifesteal, and I do think that does feel really bad. Our bonus health ratio 165%, bonus AD to 120%. bonus AD. So for the Bruiser or Bel'Veth that goes Frostfire, Gauntlet, and all this other stuff, these changes don't really do all that much. I'll be honest with you. So these changes don't hurt that much. You lose a little bit of damage. I think that most of the utility is not there. This is actually very fair nerfs, I think, pretty much across the board. The current build that I really grew an affinity for is obviously like the lethal tempo full lifesteal build, where you end up getting the shield bow, the Blade of the Ruin King, the Bloodthirster, and then you curve out the crit chance that you have by going into Gwynsu's. I think it's a lot better. I think it plays a lot better than the Glass Cannon Bel'Veth, which I think is absolutely disgusting. And I think that like it's almost comical that build is what everyone's doing, and that's what everyone is gravitating towards. So I think that Bel'Veth has the two builds, which are the full lifesteal build, or you have the tanky version. The tanky version is basically not affected by almost any of this because of the way that it ends up itemizing. The bonus AD modifier on our health ratio almost doesn't matter because of the way that, again, that build itemizes and goes about everything. I think this is a very fair way of nerfing her. I really do. I really, really, really feel like these are all very fair nerfs, and I think that people who are playing Bel'Veth and have been learning her, I think, are going to be fine even after these changes. But a lot of the people that have just been trying to like stat check her, especially in lower MMRs and whatnot, they are going to get tagged by this. Senna base health, 560 to 530. Q base damage, 40 to 160 to 30 to 170. A W root duration, 1.25 to 2 to 2.25 to 1 to 2 seconds. Okay. So Senna's just getting a little bit more vulnerable. That's pretty much it, but it has nothing to do with why she's as good as she is. So it doesn't really do that much. I hope people don't overreact to this like they did the Jinx. That would obviously be catastrophic if that ended up happening, but no, Senna is still the absolute best down in the bot lane. Tahm Kench passive, bonus magic damage ratio, 4% bonus health to 3% bonus health growth, 109 to 103, not the end of the world. This probably this impacts top lane, Tahm Kench more than anything else. Zeri, our bonus movement speed, 1% to 0.5%. Again, not the end of the world. Wukong, E now deals 160% damage to monsters, deals 120% damage to monsters, so his clearing capability is going to get even worse. Our cooldown going up by 10 seconds, doesn't really matter. Seraphine passive AP ratio, 6 to 9, nice, to 7%. And then ECC duration, 1.5 to 1.25 seconds. These are totally fine. Seraphine is a mainstay. I don't know. They have a skin line coming up or something, man. They are really trying to sell skins on her. This is absolutely bonkers. Yuumi, passive bonus range, 50 to 0. That's not why you pick Yuumi. It just has nothing to do with it. And then now we are going to... Oh, no. Okay, system buffs. So this is in 12.13. So the system buffs, just want to point out that Kiana is absolutely bonkers right now, and any of the other, lethality users, etc., that are able to build Bruiser are already like sort of in good spots. So this stuff is just like really funny if they're buffing all of the items, the lethality mythics and all the other good stuff. But let's see. +5 move speed per legendary. Oh, an additional mythic passive. So they're all just now going to give movement speed on top of the mythic passive they give. Great. Eclipse range damage proc, 6% HP to 3% max HP. Okay, so they're nerfing Eclipse for ranged. Who even builds Eclipsed on a ranged champion? I don't even... What even is that? Who builds Eclipse ranged? Who builds it? Wait, never mind. I'm thinking Dustblade of Drakthar is Eclipse. I can't. Oh man. All right, that's actually a pretty big nerf. Wait, that's actually a pretty big nerf for some of the Eclipse users. Wait, that's really big. Wow. Okay. All right, that's funny. Okay, system adjustments. Sheen damage, 12% max health to 6% max health plus 125% base AD. Heal, 6 to 3% to 65% of pre-mitigation damage. So This really is more of a siphoning item now than I think anything. Interesting, they didn't take off the. It seems like they didn't take off the armor MR thingy majiggy that's going on. So early on, this will end up dealing more damage, but I think it'll fall off on most champions in the later stages. But again, the base AD means that there's a certain subset of champions that actually benefit from this, and that's pretty much it. So we're now going to move on to Gwen and Sivir, which are C pictures. Gwen. All right, so I think that Gwen... So the idea that Riot had, if I remember reading correctly on Twitter, was that they wanted to make it so that you can build magic resist against Gwen, and she's going to deal less true damage. So, all right, let's take a look. HP regen grows 0.55 to 0.9 per 5 seconds. So she has more regen in lane. Damage per snip, 9 to 21 plus 5% AP to 10 to 26. So she got more damage on Q early before she has any... Okay, so she got a little bit more damage on Q early on before she has any ability power. That's just weird. Final snip damage, 45 to 105 plus 25% AP to 60 to 140. Why is she just getting so much damage? Plus 35 per... Why is she getting... What? Center snip damage, 100% true damage, 75% true damage. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so she's losing 25% true damage on the center snip. Deal 75% damage to minions, so her wave clear is also taking a big hit. Minions below 20% health take 1,000% bonus damage instead of reduced damage. Okay, never mind. Hollowed Mist, W. Bonus resist, 12 to 20 plus 5% AP to 17 to 25 plus 7% AP, so she's getting tankier. Interesting. Duration, 5 seconds to 4 seconds. Okay, but it's not going to last as long for the active. Skip and slash, bonus magic damage, 10 plus 15% AP to 15 plus 20% AP. Wow. Bonus range, 50 to 75. So this is interesting because Gwen actually builds some of the big AP items. Gwen builds Nashers, Gwen builds Deathcap. Those are two of the largest supplying ability power items in the game, and it's just so weird. She's getting so many AP buffs. Bonus range back up by 25, which... Okay, so all of her changes immediately just read as she's going into the jungle again. Did Riot forget? Did Riot, forget that she's just going to go into the jungle when they give her back the range? That was the whole logic. The whole logic was that the range hurt her jungle clear and it hurt her jungle ganks. But now she's getting the range back. She's getting damage back early. She's getting utility back. She's getting scaling back with the ability power. I mean, the center stip not dealing the true damage, I feel like this is going to be over-exaggerated. You're not going to build magic resist just because Gwen's dealing 25% less true damage. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely redunculous. And she's getting tankier on top of this. This is so absurd. Cooldown refund, 50% to... Okay, cooldown refund, 25 to 65%. So she gets her Q back, or she gets her E back up more often when it's finally max needlework. Damage per needle, 30 to 80 plus 8%, 35 to 95 plus 10%. Dude, the 25% true damage, it's like not even gonna matter, like in mid game or... Well, I mean, I guess it will matter if you build magic resist, but a lot of champions can't just build magic resist. I feel like this is not a belief. You know, one of the things that tilts me the most when you're watching a solo queue streamer sometimes, and you'll see the solo queue streamer die, or you'll see the solo queue streamer recall to buy an item, and some guy in chat's like, you should buy resist, you just died, or something like that. No. I don't know, what 10-minute guide thing someone watched where, people actually believe stuff like this. Just because you die doesn't mean that you buy resists. Likewise, just because there's a Gwen on the enemy team doesn't mean that you can buy magic resist. You don't buy magic resist against Corki, right? If there's a Corki on the enemy team, what are you going to do? Banshee's Veil? Well, that's some LCK level itemization right there. Are you kidding? You're not gonna buy Banshees against Kog'Maw. You're not gonna AP Kog'Maw. You're not gonna buy Banshees against Corki, right? You're not gonna buy Merc Treads against Corki on the basis alone that it's magic resist. That is absolutely absurd. The logic that someone would have to have. Now, likewise, as Gwen, I mean, if you were building magic resist before, you're probably building the same magic resist. So, I mean, it's not like you're going to be able to stack magic resist. She autos so quickly, and she's so tanky, and she has so much sustain. She's still just going to kill you. Now, the other thing is that the champions that would have been concerned with her, they can't just go out of their way and buy magic resist. I mean, you're not going to have an AP carry in mid lane just be like, oh yeah, Gwen's more susceptible to MR now. Let me go and get a Banshee's Veil or something like that. No, that's not their logic. The AD carry is not seeing these changes and being like, oh, I just got to get a Hex Drinker now and Gwen can't touch me. That doesn't even make any sense. All of the bruisers that were already going to build any of the resists either will continue to build the same resists or they're not going to deviate simply because of these changes. It's just not sizable enough. But also, I just imagine Gwen goes back into the jungle now. I mean, this is absurd. Her clear is probably faster now than it used to be, which is even more absurd when you think about it. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, Sivir. So this has been a long time coming. Every time I stream, people ask me about this. This video is very long, by the way. This is one of the longer videos. This is 35 minutes right now as I'm at this. Base stats, adjusting base stats. They have barely touched since season 5. Wow, okay. Mana, 325 to 300. Mana growth is down by 10. Mana regen also down. Mana regen growth, 0.18 to 0.16. All right, she's just permanently out of mana. This is, you know, I can't. Freak's gonna redo her champion spotlight. 80 growth is down by 5. Oh my lord. 80 growth, however, is up by 0.3. Base HP is down by 32. Attack speed growth, however, is up by 0.4. Passive, fleet footwork, sharper movement speed that synergizes with attack speed. Flat 2 seconds. Fleet of foot, sorry. Decays over 1.5 seconds. Flat MS gain 45 to 60 to 55 to 70. So she's a little bit more nimble. Base damage on her Q. Slightly less reliable Q2. Damage scales linearly over game time. Okay, 35 to 95 to 25 to 85. Total AD ratio 0.7 to 1.3 to 0.8 to 1.0. Ew. Cooldown 7 to 12 to 8. Ew. Cast time 0.25 to 0.25 to 0. Scaling with attack speed. That's really cool. New scales with crit chance up to 50% bonus damage. Okay, so it ends up dealing a lot more damage in the later stages. Cost 70 to 110 to 55 to 75. It's a lot more spammable. Missile speed 1350 to 1450 outward, 1200 inward. So it goes out quicker and then it comes back a little bit slower. So okay. Q, more reliable. Bounces no longer infinite. W now grants attack speed and synergizes with attack speed. Buff duration 3 attacks to 4 seconds. Okay. Bonus attack speed 20 to 40%. Okay. Max bounces infinite. 8 per ricochet. And then new can now bounce back to targets that have already been hit once per target. Will find new targets first. Total AD 0.3 to 0.9. 0.3 to 0.05. Okay. New now deals 80% damage to minions. What? Bounce range 450 to 500. Cost 75 to 60. Bounce missile speed 700 to 1000. E, remove as the source of the kit's mana. Give it to other outputs that Sivir can appreciate. Removed. Mana refund. Okay. New, Sivir heals for 0.6 to 0.8 total AD, 0.5 AP. Well, that's really cool. That's really cool that it's now a heal. That is very punishing. Okay. That feels like it punishes way harder. That does. It just punishes way harder. New procs feed of... Wow, okay. Cooldown 22 to 10 to 22 to 14, but it is less spammable. R, reduce output for teammates and give Sivir a moment of increased personal power. Cooldown 120 to 80 to 170, a lot more spammable. Removed attack speed. Removed initial movement speed burst. Unchanged. Movement speed for Sivir plus allies, 20 to 30%. What? Duration 8 to 12 seconds. That's nice. New, refreshes on recently damaged takedown. Oh! Wow. Okay, this is like raised morale. Like, what is going on here? New auto attacks during the hunt reduce Sivir's basic attack. Basic. Wow. Okay. Wow, that's really good. Now, auto attacks during the hunt. Does that mean all auto attacks, like all her teammates, or just hers? I'm not totally sure. Even if it's just hers, that's insane because she's gonna have a lot of crit, right? She's gonna go crit. And she's going to have a lot of CDR because of the crit items that she's going to end up buying, right? She's probably going to end up buying Navari Blades too. Like, Navari Blades plus she's going to be flying off the hinges. Oh, my Lord. She's going to be out of control. I don't even, like, what is even going on here? Oh, my Lord. She is going to be, oh, man. She's going to be flinging crap literally everywhere. She's going to be taking craps in bed. What is going on? Oh my lord. Someone's going to have to put her in the dep end for sure. My lord almighty. What is going on? Okay, well, that's interesting. She's definitely going to be a much more explosive utility, like, team boosting AD carry is basically the role that they're trying to give her, and I think that's awesome. I think that we really lack, like, an AD... So, Kalista tries to take on that role, and she's a joke, but Kalista sort of is, like, the utility engager ADC that's, like, there for teammates. But, like, Kalista can auto 30 times in a team fight, rend, and do 200 damage. So, like, that just feels bad. But Sivir, with all this, like, you know, boosting and everything else that she's doing, I mean, it's going to feel really cool. Yeah, I really like the direction that they're going with Sivir. I think this is honestly really good. All right, well, that was a doozy. That was almost 40 minutes long for the patch. There's obviously no skins because this is just previews, and I don't believe that 12.12b gets an official release on the website, so I don't think there's any skins inside of it. As of today, though, I do believe that the patron coaching stuff will... I believe that there's going to be a post probably later on today. I know that the tier already exists for it, but there's going to be a post in the Discord as well as on the Patreon, as I know that was a lot of the feedback that some people got, is that they wanted coaching content of some sorts to return, and that will return on Patreon and then occasionally on YouTube or something like that. But that's all that's going on for this week, and now we're going to have 2 weeks of pretty much no activity, I think, on the main channel for videos like this. So we'll see what ends up happening. And I think that is going to do it for this patch rundown. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you in the next one.